high desert and the great American Southwest. I bid you all good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever the state of day is, wherever you are. This is Coast to Coast AM, and I'm Art Bell. We cover all those time zones, and there's actually more than 24. There's even half-hour time zones. It's really weird. We've got them all, though, one way or the other, and it's great to be here on a Friday night, Saturday morning, which is going to be mainly an open lines program, but I've got a couple of things in mind that I would like to do. Last night, Kreskin, I took a night vision camera and pointed it toward the skies of Las Vegas early in the evening, actually beginning about 8:30, in order to capture what you said was going to occur. And when you came on the program, you said that there would be 3 to 4 craft involved in the biggest. Let me finish. No, let me finish.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
A maximum of 3 to 4 craft. Fine. In the biggest sighting in a century, and that hundreds would witness it, and it would be the biggest event of their lives, that kind of thing. And that's what you said on this program.
That's right.
And then in an update, you essentially repeated the same thing.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Okay, now let's shift to what happened.
How long did you have the camera out?
We had the camera until gee whiz, past midnight. But anyway, let's continue. I monitored. I did an hour talking to people who were actually there who had cell phones.
Right.
So that I could sort of get the flavor, of what was going on.
Yeah.
And let's see, at 10:20. Approximately. I understand you dropped a couple of hankies, actually 10:15 about. I dropped a couple of hankies, and then you told everybody it was all over and left.
And I said my participation was over and I left.
Your participation was over and you left. Yeah, about 10:20, right?
I don't, Art, I don't remember the exact time.
Yeah, it was about 10:20.
Was it 10:20?
Yeah, because of people on the phone told me.
Yeah.
About 10:20. And actually, I was, in a way, thankful because I had a guest coming on, and I thought, oh, man, it's going to really interrupt, another guest somewhere. So, anyway, so I had a lot of calls, and everybody said that nothing happened.
They must be embarrassed today, huh, Art?
No, I don't think so.
Really?
No, I don't think so, because you said that...
There'd be hundreds.
Well, you did say that, hundreds.
Yeah, well, I was wrong. It was thousands.
Yeah, but, you said it was all over at 10:15 or 20, somewhere in there.
I said I had to leave because the documentary people needed to interview me, so I said my participation here is all over.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody left.
You sent me a press release today, or your people did.
Yeah.
Your people originally contacted me to get on there, and that's fine. And then today I got this press release, and what the press release says in part, quoting you, my original intention was to demonstrate a scenario how an enemy possessing the same skill and abilities as myself might create a mass happening on an even larger scale and over a much greater territorial area, said Kreskin. Now, so in other words, your original intention was deception.
My original intention was using psychological persuasion to show how.
When you came on my show, it was deception.
Well, you could say deception.
I did.
Okay.
Okay, so that was deception.
For a reason that was very...
But there's a difference. I have a lot of people on my show. I'm usually a pretty easygoing guy, Kreskin. I have a lot of people on my program that are visionaries and psychics and...
well, I'm not a psychic.
I know. You say you're a mentalist, right? I said you were a magician, then you said mentalist.
Well, I am not a psychic.
But
I'm not a psychic.
You do say you're a mentalist, right?
I'm a mentalist, but I'm not a psychic.
In fact, you corrected me. Anyway, anyway, I have a lot of people on the program, you must understand, as guests who do claim to be psychic or visionary in one way or another, and they're honest people, and sometimes they predict things and they're wrong. But they didn't plan from the beginning to deceive, And so what I think you did is really lame. I'm telling you, face-to-face, lame. Not only that, but I now understand that you have you've reneged on your deal to give $50,000. You are not giving $50,000 to charity, right?
The reason is because of the success of the prediction.
Oh, baloney.
And may I finish?
Yeah. Yeah. Finish.
Well, thanks to NBC. And obviously people know about the traffic jams on Las Vegas Boulevard last night. As it turns out, at 11:03,
somebody saw something.
Well, not somebody saw something. Some 60-some people saw something.
Actually, again,
well, I can't finish.
Yeah, you can finish.
Well, I'd like to finish.
60 people.
Because no, it was thousands of people
on TV. Thousands. You mean on TV?
But I'd like to finish.
Go ahead.
What happened was that the prediction also stated that the phenomena would take place between 10:15 and midnight. That was the time that I mentioned many, many times. And I told the audience in the theater, now you understand, when we went outside, there were about 1,000 other people there who were partying and drunk and so forth. I mean, they didn't really, they weren't even with it. The audience...
Actually, there were thousands. There were other locations where people gathered.
But the people outside did not know what I had told the audience in the theater, and that was that this whole plan was, first of all, to show something that had worried me greatly since 9/11, how ruthlessly an enemy could utilize and manipulate the imagination of people's minds and use it in a very, very deleterious manner.
Yeah, but that's what you did.
But I'd like to finish.
That's what you did.
I'd like to finish what happened. As I've said since Monday, from 10:15 to midnight was the time spectrum of this whole phenomena. At 11:03, as the crews were packing, now the suggestion I planted in the minds of the 41 people was basically something of a green light type effect, although some people were crying because they felt noise and vibrations and so forth, but that's a very subjective phenomena.
41 people.
41 because of the nine college students that ran into the distance and came back to the casino.
That's not hundreds.
I'm talking about thousands.
No, you're talking about.
I haven't finished.
Yes. Well, okay. So that we might.
May I finish what happened?
Yeah. There was an object seen and filmed.
No, there wasn't. There wasn't an object seen. What happened at 11:03, as the crews were packing, is that one of the people glanced up and saw what I had suggested as a green light form, but of course I was inside being interviewed further, starting in the same pattern as the others had hallucinated. At 11:04, a second one appeared, and thank God, a gentleman from NBC here in Las Vegas, his camera was still on.
I know.
So he called, Steve Krupe called and interrupted the news broadcast, and literally thousands of people saw this phenomena take place. As a matter of fact, there are two people who left letters here.
Well, you know what, Kreskin? It doesn't matter because you intended to deceive from the beginning.
You may say that, but the truth
I am saying that.
The truth of the matter is that there were thousands for the first. Where have in history, we've all seen films that can be altered, but people saw this for real because some of the crew called home to tell their families and said, we're watching it. And if anyone saw the playbacks this morning on the news, and at noon, it was seen originally live by... Now, in the end, sure, it may. Who knows what it could be? It could be someone throwing plates at someone.
Could be anything. There were people firing flares.
Well,
there's crap going on. Look, my point is that in your own words, in your own press release today, it was intentional deception.
No, it was not intentional deception.
Oh, you came on my program and said what you said.
How ruthlessly people are conditioned. Right. If people are conditioned,
it was ruthless.
This could have been done on a larger scale, Art, and that is the fear. I needed
to tell you something. Now, let me tell you something. I had a lady from Channel 41 television who was there and grabbed a quick interview with you. And she asked you, because we played it on the air, she held the phone up to the recorder, and she said, some poor lady came down here and from Seattle. Let me finish and spent $600 coming down here. And you said, "Well, I didn't tell her to come down here."
I did not tell her to come down.
And
furthermore, she stayed. She would have seen the phenomena that she was looking for.
But the deception.
If she stayed, she would have seen the phenomena because it was within the framework of 10:15 to midnight, and it did happen within 10:15 to midnight. Had she stayed, as some of the other people did, and who have sent letters to me and called me, she would have seen right there what some 16 newsmen and crew people saw, and thousands
you know what?
on TV.
By your own words.
So actually, I did not tell her to fly in. I did not tell her to fly in.
Kreskin, I know you didn't, but
and
it seems to me...
I would never have suggested anyone do something like that.
Yeah,
I
well,
would never.
even if you don't give the $50,000, you ought to give that lady her money back.
Anyway, well, then she should have, perhaps if she flew first class, but the point of the matter is, there was a sighting involving thousands of people, and it was live. And as MSNBC and Fox News, in long discussions with me, verified it did take place in the hour of 10:15 to 12 midnight.
Yes, it did.
And consequently, I was successful in that part of the prediction came about.
Well, you had planned. Okay. Listen.
By the way, I happened to have been the night before performing 50. I don't even want to tell you how close to the Twin Towers. 5 days later, I walked there. Regis was coming back towards me, and it's a setting I can never forget.
Yeah, and what you did, the Twin Towers have no relationship whatsoever, except they're both acts, in my opinion, of terrorism. Take care, Kreskin. I'll tell you something else. I have in all the years that I've done this kind of programming, I have never banned but let's see, 1, 2, 3, or 4 people from my show. So you can still count it on one hand, but add one. Kreskin, you're banned from my show. He hung up. He's banned forevermore from my show. While I do this program, he will never again appear. I know exactly how it came down, and I read his press release today, and in his own press release, he admits that he intended to deceive, as compared to what he said twice on my program. To the entire listening audience, it was, I thought, very clear. Was it not very clear to you? He claims 41 people here saw it. This, again, is in his own press release, dated today, June 7th, from his office. And it has quotes around his words. Quote, "My original intention was to demonstrate a scenario how an enemy possessing the same skill and abilities as myself might create a mass happening on an even larger scale and over a much larger territorial area," end quote. In other words, he knew damn well when he came on my program and said there would be as many as 3 or 4 craft. It would be the sighting of the century, and there would be hundreds of people involved in seeing it. And he went out there and at about 10, 15, or 20 in that area and dropped 2 handkerchiefs. Now, he had done some work with an audience and maintained about 300 of that audience inside during a show. And he'd been doing a little mental work with them. And I guess the dropping of the handkerchief was some sort of key for them to see something. So his original intent, whatever in the hell happened later in the night after everybody left and was packing up, is completely irrelevant. Totally, completely irrelevant. And I draw a line between those guests that I have on the program who claim to be visionaries or mentalists or psychics or whatever word they use, and claim to have had a vision or information come to that's come to them that says something or another will happen. Well, if it doesn't happen, at least they came to me honestly. And I don't feel that was the case with the somewhat, in my opinion, very much less than amazing Kreskin. That was not the case. He did not come to me honestly. And yes, I'm pissed. You bet I'm pissed. And he is banned. Banned from this show forever. I'm Art Bell. This is Coast.
Make a little effort, try to be sure. I don't need go blue.